Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to Starbucs. I'm your host, Anthony DiNardo. With me, of course, we have Jim Rosati. Jim, happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing fresh off the vacation?
Yeah, it was a good trip. I still got a little like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer action going on with my
I
sunburn.
noticed that actually.
Like everything's good except my nose. So, hey, that's just a lesson for next time.
Well, that's just so you can guide our way through the show today.
There you go.
We thank you for that.
Jimbo with your nose so bright.
Won't you guide Starbucks tonight? Yeah, so we are back from Bradenton. Kind of sad and happy at the same time. Great trip. 4 pregame shows, 4 daily wrap-ups. Met some people, nice connections, got some insight on things. And again, beautiful, gorgeous weather. And now we're back home. Now, some still have some gorgeous weather and some others don't, but it's back to the morning, the Mondays, the back to work, all that stuff. And that's why I'm sad.
Yeah, my work phone died on like Tuesday of last week, and I haven't charged it yet. So as soon as this show's over, I've gotta plug it up and yeah, back to reality. So
right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, with that said, let's go ahead and tell everyone BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion. With the largest selection of odds on everything from NBA and college basketball to the NHL and UFC, BetOnline continues to be your number one sports betting source. From every three-pointer to hat trick, BetOnline has you covered with odds, stats, and more for every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. So, Jim, we saw a solid week. Now, we didn't get to see Paul Skenes, unfortunately. He did pitch when the game was canceled and then went back to Lecom, had a simulated game. And, of course, Saturday was the day we left when he pitched. But we all got to see him on TV. But other than that, like we got to see pretty much all the main pitchers pitch outside of Andrew Heaney, who hasn't yet. And we got to see pretty much all the hitters too. So I don't know, man. I don't know. It's the offense struggled, except when we weren't there. Seemed to come through. But the pitching looked pretty good. And we've talked about Brett Strom coming in. We've heard about all the new pitches each pitcher wants to throw and such, and it was kind of cool. So I'm ready for the season. And hey, tonight they play the Yankees. It's our first post-game show we're doing of the year as well. So yeah, it's time.
Yeah, didn't get to see Skenes. Luckily, the start on Saturday was broadcasted, so there's at least some video from it, so we were able to watch it. Unfortunately, Ed Smith Stadium down in Sarasota, no StatCast, nothing, so we couldn't really get any numbers on anything. But yeah, let's kind of dissect some of this pitching. In particular, Paul Skenes' spring debut. He was pushing 99 miles an hour. I don't know if he hit 100, but 99 miles an hour quite a few times. He threw over 50 pitches in the game too. So, ramping himself up. He mentioned after the game that, the biggest adjustment that he's seen is typically going from like that 3-inning mark to the 4-inning mark. So I'll be curious to just see what his next start is. But he said that it was pretty smooth going his 3 innings. And all in all, pretty good results for Paul Skenes. He gave up 4 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts, and 3 innings pitched. But the 1 run it's technically earned, but it was an error on a double play. It was some sloppy defense behind him. Probably, shouldn't have happened. But yeah, he just looks ready to go. Like he looks like he's got a plan. He knows what he needs to do to get ready for the season. He's executing that plan. And he's throwing in some new pitches too, which like I said, I didn't get to watch the full game live, but I went back and watched some stuff. There was one cutter that he threw. I was just like, oh God, if he can throw that cutter in that spot against lefties consistently, I don't know how this dude's gonna get touched. Like it was crazy just seeing a pitch that he just figured out. And he placed it perfectly. I think it was to Ryan O'Hearn. I wanna say. But yeah, like right off the inside corner, broke in on his hands and just swung right through it. So really really nice start to spring for Skenes. And he's still got like 3 weeks now to ramp himself up. We did a Bet Online read earlier. Bet Online has his over under ERA set at 2.80. Denardo 2.80, which is crazy. It's still it's so low. It's almost like a whole run more than what he had last year.
Right.
Like
That's the funny part is like that's a very reasonable ERA for any pitcher. I mean, Chris Sale coming into the year,
that's
you would have said like
damn good
2.8
ERA,
seems
Frank.
pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned, that's almost a full run more than it was last year.
Yeah. Yeah, 196 last year. So yeah, it was cool. It sounds like Shelton talking during the week, like just doing everything that it takes to get to the point where you're making 30, 31, 32 starts, during a regular season. He's never done that before.
Right.
Never did that. Last year was the most he's ever pitched. He made 23 big league starts, and you know how the AAA starts went. He was really just kind of being babied throughout those. He was going 2-3 innings most days. But he was still kind of getting held back a little in the majors too. So I'm excited to just see like the reins off, just like Paul Skenes untethered, just like full force. And so far he looks great. It's just the one start that we've seen, but like he looks good for his first time out there.
He really did. And you mentioned like the struggles came early and partly on the defense. So he does give up the earned run, but settled right in. I mean, 4 hits, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts, 3 innings pitched. I actually don't have the pitch count here, of course, because it was all wonky. That was it like 40? Was it like 43 or 44 pitches he threw in the 3 innings?
53 pitches.
Oh, it was 53. Okay.
Yeah, so he got up to 53 pitches. Yep.
So even more than I even thought. So that's the one key, of course, again, and he mentioned the efficiency. We talked dope. Dope's going to be a big thing this year, right? Department of Pitching Efficiency. And Paul Skenes wants to be part of that. And that's what he recognizes. Like, how are you going to get better? It's not so much that he's going to be able to strike guys out more and whatnot. I mean, he can do that already. It's how do I get into the 7th? How do I get to the 8th opposed to the 5th and 6th? That wasn't part of it. Now, again, it's spring, right? There's just things we're keeping on, looking at, whatever. But he did look good. And you talk about Jim, like this guy just learned a cutter. I mean, the guy threw the best pitch in baseball last year, and he learned it last year. I have full confidence. The cutter, Mariano, look out. Nobody cares about your cutter anymore. Paul Skenes is here. Like that's just how this guy operates. I have full faith that cutter, which you mentioned did look nasty there, is going to be solid for him. And now this guy is working with 2 more pitchers on top of what he came in last year. So, like I mentioned, being efficient is going to be the biggest hurdle for Paul Skenes, I think, to really, really take that next step and carry, because he's going to have to kind of carry this team to the playoffs if they get there.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be the workhorse. He's going to be the guy who is expected to stop a losing streak, that type of thing. Last year, you saw the team just kind of go in the tank, for a month. It's going to be Paul Skenes' job to make sure like that doesn't happen. Like he's got to be the guy who's like, all right, yeah, we're not losing my starts this year.
Right.
And he did a really good job of doing that last year. Like the Pirates won most Paul Skenes starts. So if he can just continue that, get just a tiny bit better. Like I said, I don't know if the ERA can get better from where it was last year, but like you mentioned, the other stuff certainly can. His efficiency can get better. He can go deeper into ball games, and going deeper into ball games, not only does it help that particular game because it's just more Paul Skenes, like that helps you out in every single game, all 162 of them. Like if you can save your middle bullpen, if you can not have to go to your 7th inning guy every single game, if you can if you can rest guys, and they know that, like, hey, like, I'm probably not gonna have a pitch today. Like that goes a long way throughout the course of a 162 game season. Like you don't want to throw your middle relievers a ton. Like that's not the goal. They're middle relievers for a reason. They're the worst pitchers on your team, right? So the less that you can throw those guys, the fresher you can keep those guys, the better it's going to be over the course of an entire season. And yeah, that's like if there's one thing Paul Skenes can like work on and get better at, it's that. Like just consistently going 6, 7. You don't have to consistently go 8 or 9, but like maybe dabble, throw a couple of those in there from time to time. But if he's going 6 to 7 every time out, not only is it great for that game, it's great for the full season.
Yep. And again, like think about Darick Shelton, how he can manage his bullpen. He gets a lot of hate around Pittsburgh because guys focus solely on ERA and whatnot. But again, like that's what Mitch Keller presents. Like you talk about when Mitch Keller pitches, that bullpen kind of relaxes and says, all right, we need 3 innings. That's a good mindset to have. That's good. And as far as Darick Shelton, it's like, all right, I need to find 9 outs in this bullpen at some point, probably. Because that's what Mitch Keller presents. He's going to give you 6 innings. That's not what Paul Skenes was last year. Now, again, right, some of it was forced. We're going to limit. We're going to monitor your innings. We're going to kind of baby a little bit. I'm hoping the Clydesdale's loose this year, and I think we will see that, right? He's going to go, but he's going to have to find a way to get to the 6th, to the 7th consistently. So again, now you have 2 guys in that rotation now that you feel very confident that, hey, I'm getting 6, at least from the starter today. So I can manage a bit differently, right? Or maybe the day before I can manage a bit differently as well because I know who's, pitching tomorrow. So yeah, that's where Paul Skenes going to really make I mean, I guess I shouldn't say his money. The money is still coming from strikeouts, but that's where he's really going to help this team to the next level. Because like you mentioned, and we talk about how can you get better than a 1.96 ERA? Well, you can get better by continuing to pitch because you're Paul Skenes instead of allowing maybe a Kyle Nicholas to come into the game, right? That's how you get better. That's how you make this team better. So,
yes, no one's, that's no offense to Kyle Nicholas. I'm a big Kyle Nicholas fan, right? But it's like saving Kyle Nicholas so that like he doesn't have to pitch in the 6th innings of those games. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have to come in the 5th inning with a runner on base and 1 out, and clean up an inning. Like I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew you weren't shitting on Kyle Nicholas.
Right. but I mean, it doesn't matter who you mention. Again, Paul Skenes is going to be better than that person. Like anyone on this team, I trust Paul Skenes to be in that game than said person. So yeah, there wasn't so much to it on Kyle Nicholas, but he's going to be more the middle innings guy. And again, no matter who that middle innings person is, again, it could be Mariano. Maybe hold on a little bit there, but
if it's Mariano. Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like Paul Skenes, I trust more than whoever it is. So I need Paul Skenes to be in that game as long as he can be to give this team that fighting chance. So yeah, so right. But yeah, so again, like Saturday, the sexiness was certainly there. The efficiency really wasn't. But it is what it is at this point in time. It's spring.
One thing too I want to point out, and it's just something that I've noticed, and they're doing it with all their starting pitchers this spring so far. Last year, you rarely saw a starter pitch on 4 days rest. Skenes, Saturday, 4 days rest. Keller's been going on 4 days rest his couple starts. Jared Jones, who we'll talk about here in a second, 4 days rest. Now, they're not going, 80, 90, 100 pitches yet. They're still in like that 40 to 50 pitch range currently, but just something to keep an eye on. I'm curious on how they approach that this season because last year they were really conservative with these guys. Like they were making sure that they weren't getting used very often. They were always getting that 5th day of rest. If they typically you're going to have 5 days rest because there's an off day most weeks. But those games where there weren't 5 days rest, they typically just went with like a bullpen game in those games and just kind of pushed everybody back a day. But we've seen so far this spring, the starters are going on 4 days rest, which again, just something to monitor. I'm not sure if it's just, hey, you're only throwing 35, 45, 50 pitches right now. You can do it. But just something to keep an eye on throughout the rest of spring and the beginning of the regular season. You're not asked to pitch on 4 days rest very often throughout the season, but last year, I feel like they didn't do that at all.
Right.
With hardly anyone. I think Keller was maybe the only guy they really did that with.
And it seemed as if it wasn't all the time with him as well. I mean, they had him going on 5 days rest here and there also. But that is something we talked about heading into this year. Like, how are they going to utilize this rotation? So good point there, Jim. Because that's another thing too. Like, if you expect Paul Skenes the reins to come off, and you expect Paul Skenes to help carry this team, you expect Paul Skenes to pitch as often as he can. And that's probably on every 4 days rest instead of 5 days rest. So, is he going to get the opportunity to pitch 32, 33, starts this year or such? So I guess, yeah, that's good to see right now. Pitch count isn't there, but that's how they're operating. And usually they sync things up in spring to operate towards the regular season. So I wanted to look last year. I can't do it quick enough to see how they worked it last year in spring, but things changed for them as well once the guys started coming up and Jared started opening day. But yeah, that's good. That's a good sign.
Yeah. Speaking of Jared, he started yesterday against the Detroit Tigers. It was it was a fun game to watch. It was Jared Jones versus Jackson Jobe. If you hadn't had the chance to see Jackson Jobe yet, he's one of, if not the only guy who's rated higher than Bubba Chandler in most prospect lists when it comes to pitching. So he's a special talent. But he went up against him yesterday.
You saw why yesterday too, by the way.
Yeah, he looks pretty good. But I think yesterday, Jared Jones, he went 3 innings, gave up a run, actually 2 2/3 innings, gave up a run, 2 hits, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. Yesterday was like the perfect spring training start that you want to see from Jared Jones, I think. He was clearly working on specific pitches. He was clearly working on just like locating things. If you look at his pitch breakdown, 18 fastballs, he was heavy on that, but then 10 changeups, 9 sliders, 5 curveballs, and then he threw 2 of his new 2-seamer, sinker, whatever you want to call it. But I want to talk about the changeup because that's a pitch where last year it graded out fairly well when he threw it. It just wasn't a pitch that he threw often.
Right.
And it's a pitch where, Tyler always talks about this, Tyler being the pitching guru of the group here. Jerry Jones was basically a 2-pitch pitcher last year. I mean, he threw his fastball and his slider roughly 85% of the time. Right. And then he threw in a few curveballs, threw in a few changeups, but 15% of his pitches were curveballs and changeups. And yesterday you saw 10 changeups out of him. 9 of them I believe 9 of them were to lefties. 1 was to a righty. But that's a pitch where if you can locate it, and his changeup is good. Like it's a good changeup. It's a solid difference from his fastball. It breaks down in a way. You saw it yesterday when it was on a couple of times. When that pitch is on, like that's how you get lefties if you're Jared Jones. Is with that changeup. And so it was really cool to see him just like spam that against lefties yesterday. Again, this is what spring training is for. These games don't count. So if you keep a changeup up in the zone and it gets hit, whatever, right? Keep throwing them. And so that was nice to see yesterday. 10 changeups, generated 7 swings, 2 swings and misses. There was some hard contact off of it when he did leave it up. He left it up to, I want to say Colt Keith laced the changeup pretty hard. But overall, that's what you want to see out of Jared Jones is, hey, if you can establish that changeup as like a true third pitch. He was sprinkling that curveball a few times too. And then, like I said, flashing that new sinker, which it generated 1 swing and it got a swing and miss. So all in all, 5 pitches thrown throughout the game for Jared Jones. And that was just something you didn't see last year. So we keep talking about how is he going to get better? How's he going to get better? establishing a reliable third pitch is part of that. And maybe the changeup's that.
It was Colt Keith, by the way. And absolutely. You know, and like, this is why one of the reasons why we could say results don't matter. This is also one of the reasons why when it comes to pitchers, it's not so much of results that matter, right? Jared Jones is like a perfect example of this. You know, like Jared Jones, whether he's smiling or not smiling, comes off the mound, tells you anything you need. That's my takeaway from spring this year when it comes to Jared Jones. Isn't numbers, and I think, is Jared smiling? If Jared's smiling, he feels good. And then I feel good. I'm all warm inside. And Jared was smiling that time. And he smiled the first time as well. So far, great spring for Jared. The other thing I want to talk about here as well is again, going back to this, like you said, spamming the changeup and such. He's trying to get a better feel of these pitches. He's like you said, working on things, right? Like the two-seamer is a perfect example. If you saw that video, he hates it. You know, like I threw it. It's trash. I hated it, but they told me it's good. So I don't know. So I kept throwing it more or less. Right. And that's like what it's coming to. It's like they're working on, like literally they're working on things. He got a new pitch. He's not Paul Skenes. Paul Skenes is a whole different animal. When Paul Skenes learns a new pitch, it's the best one in baseball. When other guys and real actual talent, like in MLB, guys throw a new pitch and learn a new pitch, they got to work on it some. So, you know, like that's exactly what he's doing. So when he throws a change up and it's not that good, and it gets tanked. It's not oh, Jared Jones sucks, we gotta move on. It's hey, you know what? It's gonna work. It's gonna hopefully get there, right? This is how he's gonna take that next step. The floor is still, he's a two-pitch guy that throws the slider and fastball 85% of the time, like you mentioned. And the floor last year was still pretty good. The ceiling now is, do I learn this third pitch? Right? Do I learn this fourth pitch, right? Or really, do I learn the fifth pitch, a two-seamer, and do I correct and improve the other two, like the changeup and the curve? And that's what this spring is doing right now. And yeah, the changeup, there was some flashes there yesterday. So again, it's one of those things where so far what I see from Jared, I like. He threw a nasty two-seamer as well. He threw a nasty two-seamer. And I think he had one swing and miss on it. We threw it twice and had one swing and miss.
He had one swing and miss on the two-seamer.
And the other one just
I want to show this too. This is courtesy of Thomas Nastico on Twitter. If you don't follow him, you should, at TJ Stats. But he puts a little graphic together, you know, following every starter's game, kind of showing you the breakdown. And you know, it might be a little too small here, but yeah, as you can see here, like Jones looked good yesterday. All of his pitches minus the sinker graded out to be above average. The swings and misses were there. 6 swings and misses throughout the course of the game. Yeah, like I said, and that sinker, he threw it twice. It's the only pitch right now that's grading, you know, poorly. But
poorly.
Yeah, I mean, he threw 2 of them, so it's not really like he could have thrown one really good one and one really bad one. They average out to be you know, below average. But
right.
But yeah, what you like to see here is that, like I say, he threw a bunch of those changeups. It's a good changeup. And like I said, he's not losing anything on the fastball, the slider, the curveball. Like, this is a guy who's got 4 good pitches, maybe 5. It's just like establishing the feel for them, all of them, so that last year there were games where it was like, okay, Jared Jones doesn't have his fastball today, so he's gonna have to rely on his slider. Or Jared Jones' slider isn't really, he's not hitting his spots with it, which means like all he's got is fastball today. The point of getting like that third pitch and that fourth pitch is that if there's a game where one of your pitches is just off, you don't have to just rely on one of the pitch. You can go to a few options. And that's really like the main separator right now, I feel, between a pitcher like Paul Skenes, right, and Jared Jones. Like, there's both of these guys have great stuff. Jared Jones' slider is nasty. Jared Jones' fastball is nasty. The problem is that Skenes has a nasty fastball, a nasty slider. He's got the splinker that he just invented out of nowhere. That's the best pitch in baseball. He can throw a changeup if he needs to. He can throw the sweeper, you know. So he's got a large arsenal. And the larger your arsenal is, sometimes large arsenals is good, sometimes it's bad. It's bad in a case where sometimes it's like that, you know, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none type of deal.
Right.
There's some pitchers out there who throw 6 pitches and none of them are any good, right? But they just have 6 of them, so they mix it up. Skenes has, now 6, 7 pitches or whatever, and for the most part, what we can tell is they're all pretty damn good. When you're Jared Jones and you only have 2 good pitches, getting a third one is just it's a huge deal. It's a huge deal. So yeah, that's going to be my main thing looking at the rest of spring is, does he continue throwing that changeup a lot? How does it look? How does he feel about it? Is he hitting his spots? And then also the curveball. Like he throws that curveball for a first pitch strike, like right at the bottom of the zone a lot of times, because it's a hard curveball. It's got like hard downward action on it, late movement. It's a good pitch too, but like he is for him, it's just a matter of locating it. And I feel like he uses that pitch a lot for strike one, because you're not really expecting him to drop that curveball in there. You're looking for that 98-mile-an-hour heater. And so when he drops that 90-mile-an-hour curveball in there, or 80, I guess it's 83, it's a hard curveball, 83-mile-an-hour curveball, you just let it go. Like you if you swing at it, you're going over top of it. If you let it go, if he can hit the bottom of the zone with it, it's strike one. So yeah, a lot of things to work on still the rest of spring for Jared Jones, but I'm looking forward to watching and seeing just kind of how the rest of the spring goes when it comes to this pitch mix.
Yeah, absolutely. Talent's certainly there. Another guy you're looking for some efficiency, and he was actually pretty efficient yesterday as well. So yeah, so far so good. Like we're talking about the pitching we're seeing. I mean, Mitch Keller looks really good. Jared Jones looked really good. Paul Skenes is looking really good. Bailey Falter looking really good. Don't know how to take that.
Yeah, I mean, so far you've got to like what you see out of the guys who are competing for a rotation spot. Andrew Heaney's the only guy who we haven't seen yet. And when we were there last week, we saw him, throwing off a mound kind of on the practice fields. So you got to imagine he's close to game action. I would, like Nolan asked here, any idea when Heaney is debuting? I would guess it's this week. Sometime this week, we'll see Andrew Heaney on a mound.
Yeah, that's my guess as well.
Yeah.
We'll see, but that's certainly my guess, and he's going to be part of this rotation. Like they didn't sign him to question what he's going to be. They didn't sign him to maybe throw in relief. He's going to be part of this rotation. So you're talking about with people
John
that
says,
are fighting.
Yeah, John says tomorrow. By the way, Andrew Heaney.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah, like we mentioned, 3. Heaney's 4. So the 5th spot probably Bailey Falter. The way they're looking at the way they are using and talking about Oviedo. So again, so far from the pitching side, pretty damn good. So Jim, moving on from the pitching then.
Talk offense.
What about, I was gonna say, what's something that's standing out to you as far as offense goes?
I think the main thing that's sticking out to me is the you're not seeing a whole lot from the starters quite yet. You're seeing like Tommy Pham hit a few singles now and then. I think he looks out of all the veterans at the plate, he looks like the most ready. Cruz with the homer on Saturday, that was good to see. He's getting eased in. I'm not too worried about his, like, just get O'Neal Cruz some at bats so that by the end of spring he's feeling good.
Right.
But I would say out of all the veterans or starters, however you want to call them, Pham looks like the most like himself, putting good at bats up.
I agree with that.
Spraying the ball, hitting the ball hard. So that's good to see. But the biggest thing for me is like you got non-roster invitees who are fighting for spots on this roster, and there's a few of them who are making some noise. DJ Stewart with just a hell of a first week of spring. Matt Gorski just crushing the baseball. Darick Hall hit his first homer yesterday of camp, his first hit of camp. And then also like Nick Solak. Like I know, like I've kind of been joking about Nick Solak here for a while, but like he's having a hell of a spring too. So those 4 guys in particular that you brought in, just mostly for depth, but also kind of in case of an emergency. Stewart, Solak, and Gorski in particular, looking really good. And so when it comes to this first base battle, this short-term first base battle until Horwitz comes back, you've got options right now. So that's cool. Like I said, we talk about like the spring results aren't a huge deal, but the guys who are who are competing for a spot, like these guys are competing for a roster spot. You at least want to have options of guys who all look good. And there's some guys who are looking good. Gorski is an interesting case to me, just because this is how many times have we seen Matt Gorski at this point? I mean, he's been in the organization for 6 years. He's 27 years old. The versatility is certainly intriguing with him. The power is intriguing. He's got it, and we know he has it. He's shown it throughout his minor league career. It's just, is the swing good enough when he's not hitting the ball over the fence? Can he do the other things right? And I think you saw him take a step, like the sacrifice fly the other day was big. Just situational hitting. He is getting all of his production right now basically against Orioles minor leaguers. Like that's kind of where everything is coming from. So I like to see Gorski. I actually want to see Gorski get more playing time, but I want to see him get more playing time early in games. Like I want to see Matt Gorski start some games. Like have Matt Gorski face the Boston Red Sox tomorrow, and start and see how he fares against their starters and their top relievers. That's what I want to see. Because I wrote off Gorski at the beginning of this camp. He's playing his way kind of back into my mind. I think he could do worse than just like seeing what he's got for a couple of weeks. But I think you've got to push him a little bit and let him face some tougher competition throughout the rest of the spring to see, okay, what's really there.
Yeah. I mean, it is interesting. We talk, it's true, right? Like spring training stats don't truly matter. Now there's some meaning to them. And again, there's some things where like, if there's guys battling out, trying to make a rush, like Jared Jones last year, that it mattered for him. Because of the spring he made opening day. There was a need, and he played himself right in. And they said, you know what? We got to do it. You're just playing too good. Your stuff's too good, and we need you. And there's an opportunity. And, well, we know there's an opportunity. They need someone to play first base, at least for a few weeks, right? Which is good. It is only for a few weeks, but there is a real opportunity. And I swear, Jim, every person that's potentially battling out for this is having a hell of a spring so far. So like that's good. Again, we talk about like, things don't matter, but if you want to have stats, you'd rather have good stats than bad stats. And again, like if you're trying to figure out who do we want to have here for 2 weeks, I would want the plethora of options that I can pull from. So I'll be having good seasons or springs, and to make that decision harder for me instead of, well, it's got to be him by default because they all suck. They all look bad. But you know what? Maybe if he runs into one here, like Gorski is a good example of this. What I'm saying, like they're all pitching bad, playing bad, or whatever. Like maybe Gorski has the opportunity because how Tyler said, like, you know what, the talent's not good, they're not performing. But you know what? Maybe Gorski could run into 2 during those 2 weeks and help us out. So come up, Gorski. We're going to DFA you afterwards, and whatever happens. But maybe you can hit a home run or 2, and that can help us out. And that's what Gorski can do. And again, like I don't really trust any of the guys, but other guys have had major league experience already. They've been there. You've talked about DJ Stewart, and I understand. Like I poo-poo on it just because it's you who keeps saying it, and then Solak because the Louisville grad thing, right? But like in all reality, like Nick Solak's having a fantastic spring so far. He's hitting 500. He has a 1,500 OPS, 3 doubles, and a home run, and the 6 hits he has. But again, like DJ Stewart, 6 hits as well, 3 doubles and a home run, batting .462 with a 1,456 OPS. Like he could be a real option. Gorski, as you mentioned, is batting .400 with a 1,700 OPS. Gorski has 3 home runs. And like that's what we're talking about. Like that's what Gorski can do. Mm-hmm. He could strike out a lot. He could make the majors opening day, be your starting first baseman for most of the time, and strike out 40% of the time in those 2 weeks. But in those 2 weeks, he could also have 2 home runs, and those 2 home runs could help the team out somewhere. So I'm kind of with you. I would like to see Gorski maybe get a fair shot, maybe see him against everyday players and not AAA or AA talent that you're seeing out there, because we know what he can do with that. He's been doing it, and he's not young anymore either. So if he's going to have a real shot, but I also look at it as he probably still is on the outside looking in. He was doing what he was doing last year. He didn't get called up. Like I just feel like the Pirates aren't really looking at him truly in that sense. In all reality, it probably is like a DJ Stewart, a Darick Hall, or whatnot. But yeah, he's certainly making his case. That's for sure.
Yeah. I think Triolo too, as far as just guys like that, there's a lot of options they can go. They can go with the hot non-roster invitee. They can go with Gorski, Stewart, Hall, right? And then there's also Billy Cook. There's Nick York. There's Jared Triolo. So there's guys on the 40-man who can also handle the position. I don't know what the upside is with those guys, especially from like a power standpoint. You're maybe looking at raising the floor if you go with a Cook or a York or a Triolo. But your ceiling is somewhat limited with those guys, especially from a standpoint of putting a ball over the fence. Whereas those other three guys we're talking about, Stewart, Gorski, Hall, like they've shown that they can hit the ball a little bit, over the course of their careers. But yeah, just going to be an interesting battle. There's still a lot of time left. So far, you're seeing, I think you're getting a lot of playing time. Like DJ Stewart leads the team in the bats. Nick Solak's right behind him. Nick York's right behind him. Gorski's, up there too, with 10, 11 plate appearances. So yeah, it'll just gonna be interesting to see how it plays out. I'd like to see more looks. Like Malcolm Nunez is still in camp. He's getting looks. Like at some point, you're gonna have to kind of whittle these guys down into the serious options.
Right.
And so Malcolm Nunez has played 6 spring training games so far, like probably getting close to the time where he gets reassigned to minor league camp just to free up more playing time for these other guys. But yeah, we'll see what route. Like the good thing is, I guess they have options. I don't really particularly love any of the options, like from an everyday standpoint. But the fact that this is for 2-3 weeks, they're going to be able to find somebody who can hopefully hold down the fort until Horwitz comes back.
Yeah, and that's why I think some people are like overblowing it a bit. Like it is should be just for a few weeks, and like for something like that, like you're not looking out there to make a trade or some big signing, because then after those 2 weeks, what are you doing? Like you're just someone's going on the the IL for a few weeks. Like this is mid-June and Spencer Horwitz going to IL for 2 to 3 weeks. You just find an internal replacement. It's in the beginning of the year. It's coming. And there's non-season games right now that he's able to get better with right now. So yeah, it is just for a few weeks. All you need is someone to step up and play for a few weeks. That's why you bring in some of this depth. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of true depth like in the system for the Pirates to do something like this. But yeah, like if it is a DJ Stewart for 2 to 3 weeks, it's not the worst thing in the world. The bigger problem is the offense in its entirety, right? Like that's the issue. DJ Stewart's not going to save it, but he's also not going to kill the offense. So yeah, like it just kind of is what it is. But yeah, the first base battle is certainly a battle in camp, and so far, again, everyone who needs to battle is battling. So good stuff to see from that. I guess the other thing is the catching side. Andy hit a home run yesterday. Henry Davis hit a home run. Like those are the two guys we talk that need to step up. You really like for this team to be competitive. You really want to see them step up, because you saw what Joey Bart did last year, and he's probably not going to do as good as that, but he can still be a good player. And you're hoping for him to be still a successful, decent catcher. But if Henry Davis can come in and start hitting, if Andy Davis can come back and show that he's healthy and he's good behind the plate and also hit, like that's a big boost to this club. And again, kind of the thing so far, what you see so far, so good from them. Joey Bart, now here's something too. So I just want to point this out because it was just mentioned, like, Joey Bart is kind of worrying me. This is also on the same side of the coin, the different side of the coin. It's it's 6 plate appearances that Joey
Yeah,
Bart has had,
yeah.
right? This is where the overreactions from spring come in. Like we're talking, like people are completely overreacting about Gorski right now, and that's again like
just like they were
chill.
overreacting about Griffin and all that too, which is
Yeah. But I'm saying like there's like this faction of like this is Gorski's job to lose. It's first base is his now until he chill. On the same side, Joey Bart has 6 plate appearances. That's like a game and a half. If it was June, right, and one game went 0 for 4 and he started the next game 0 for 2, you don't care.
Yeah.
So, but there's that. But yeah, the first base battle, and again, the catching is 2 things we're looking at position wise, and solid performances so far.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear that they're looking to get Davis a lot of at bats. They're giving Endy some run there too. Bart and Delay, I feel like, are kind of being eased in a little bit, and you know they've done this before. They've been here before. They've been through spring training before. Like
Right.
Jason Delay and Joey Bart don't really. There's nothing for them to show us this spring. You know what you're getting out of Delay. I don't know if you like know exactly what you're getting out of Bart, just because how his career has gone up to this point. Like last year was clearly like his breakout year, but like guys, Joey Bart's the starting catcher on this team. Like
Right.
that's just a given right now, and he's earned that. Like he's earned starting catcher based off of how he performed last year. What they're looking at is, all right, hey, like did Henry Davis get better over the offseason? Can Endy Rodriguez hit? You know, because we don't know. We just went a year without seeing him. Jason Delay, we all know what Jason Delay brings to the table. Like we've seen enough Jason Delay. We've seen him over the years. There's nothing new that Jason Delay can show us this spring that we don't already know. Jason Delay is a very capable major league backup. Like that's who he is. And if there's someone else who can back up Bart, then he's a very capable AAA depth catching option, right? So like that's who Delay is. So, you know, you're going to get this playing time early on to Endy and Davis just because they've got things to show you, whereas the other two don't necessarily. So, yeah, when it comes to veterans, particularly in spring, like, again, I can't really stress enough how much spring doesn't matter because we fall into this trap every year. Like last year, Henry Davis crushed the ball all spring. Right. As soon as April hit, it was like, what happened? Brian Hayes has put up incredible springs year after year after year. And then once the regular season hits, it's like, what happened? What happened to the Brian Hayes we saw earlier?
Every year at this time, you know, we should probably be doing this. I should probably make a cutout of just Diego Castillo's face. And every spring you just hold that up and say, guys, Diego Castillo, remember.
Yeah. But that's the thing, right? Because like I said, for every Diego Castillo who has a good spring, there's a Bailey Falter who has a terrible spring. Right. And then as soon as the calendar hits, it's like, oh, well, that must have not meant anything. Jose Quintana, his 1 year here, horrible spring. Mm-hmm. And then it was like, as soon as the season started, it was like, oh, well, that was stupid of us to think that Jose Quintana didn't really know what he was doing.
And again, that's that veteran. You know, like he doesn't need spring. The same way Kutch doesn't need spring. Those results truly don't matter. And yeah, we bought into it. It was like, oh God, this signing was terrible. Look what he's done.
Yeah. So it's like I said, it's fun because we're watching baseball, but like the actual stat lines really don't matter. They don't matter. Like Jared Jones yesterday, right? Like Jared Jones looked good. I loved what I saw out of Jared Jones yesterday. He gave up a run in 2 2/3 innings. So, you know, not the best start in the world, but like I really liked what we saw out of him. It was exactly what you want to see Jared Jones do in the spring. In the regular season, if he's throwing a bunch of changeups and they're getting whacked around the field, then it's like, yeah, maybe don't throw that pitch so much anymore. But in spring, throw it as much as you want. Throw it every pitch if you want. Like just throw 40 changeups. Like I don't care. So yeah, it's just results are different, and you got to remember, like the opposing team's pitchers are doing the same thing. Like they're working on things, they're tinkering new pitches. So when Matt Gorski hits a homer off of a Double-A reliever in the 7th inning, it could just be he threw a pitch for the first time and he messed up, and Gorski killed it. Right. So that's kind of where I'm at. but it is yeah, the veterans, I'm not worried about any of them at this point, outside of just my usual concerns of like Isaiah Kiner-Falefa shouldn't be your everyday shortstop. Like outside of
Yeah.
those concerns, like it's whatever for those guys.
Right. Yep. Yeah, 100%. 100%. All right. So there's offense. Anything else that you want to talk about right now as far as spring goes and where we're at today?
There were just to like touch on them. There were a few transactions yesterday.
Right.
Some guys got reassigned to minor league camp, and I'm sure it kind of made some people sad. Right after yesterday's game, you saw Connor Griffin get reassigned to minor league camp. You saw Anthony Solometto, Termar Johnson, and Jack Brannigan. So kind of the main prospects who you knew weren't going to make the team, but they were in big league camp anyways. Those players have now been sent back to Pirate City. We may see them, at some point throughout the rest of camp, like as a minor league option in late games. But for the most part, those guys are gone. There's now 63 players remaining in camp, so they got to get that 63 number down to 26. So still a whole lot of cuts to go. But as far as those guys, I mean, Connor Griffin, just real quick, like impressive first spring training. I mean, it was short. He didn't get a ton of playing time, but when he did, he felt like he was always doing something that was like, oh, that's why he was the number 1 rated high school bat.
Right.
It was a good camp for him. I'm really excited just to see him, hopefully in Bradenton to start the year. Playing his first season of pro ball.
He really showed you the tools. He had a home run. He didn't have any stolen bases, but you saw the speed on the base paths, the way he was running. And again, we saw the body. This guy looks the part. Now it comes down to development, right? Can he become a good player? But you liked what he saw from him. That was cool. And again, like the home run was really cool to see from him to have. So now he goes to minor league camp and starts his journey in pro ball. But cool. Tamar also getting some action in there. You mentioned Solometto and Jack Brannigan, but I think the big one is, of course, Connor Griffin. They're getting re-signed, rightfully so. None of them are going to make the team, especially Connor Griffin. Like he's far from making the team. But it was just cool. I mean, it's cool that the Pirates, they always have their first round draft pick come to camp and whatever and play. And he performed. He put on a bit of a show too. It wasn't like he was just there. He put on a bit of a show. So it was really cool to see. He played center field, played some shortstop. So good job, Connor Griffin.
Yeah, great. Like I say, you mentioned it earlier. Like he looks the part. Like he looks the part of that stud high school draft pick. So it's fun to watch him. It was cool to see him. He got a lot more center field action than anything. So that's another thing I'm really interested to see is just how they deploy him this season. Like, is he a shortstop? Is he a center fielder? Is he both? My guess is it'll be both. I hate when they do that though. Like, I wish they would just pick a position and let that guy get really good at that position. But I also understand the versatility aspect.
Yeah. All right. Cool. I guess outside of that, anything else?
I think that'll do it. You mentioned it earlier. Our first, so I guess spring training for the Pirates, spring training for us too. So, we do our 162 post-game shows over the course of the year. We're doing 4 of them this spring training just to kind of tune up and get ready for the year. The first of those 4 post-game shows is tonight. It's a 6:30 p.m. game against the Yankees. It's televised, so you'll all be able to watch it. But Neil and Cody will be doing the post-game show tonight, so make sure you tune in for that. And if the Pirates win, we're giving away sandwiches. So we're giving away Permane Brothers sandwiches if the Pirates win tonight. So again, it's all the rules apply. Last year we gave out 2 sandwiches after every win. This year we're giving out 4 after every win. So super excited about that. So yeah, make sure you on the feed here, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the bell, hit the the subscribe, and then the bell. The bell is going to let you know when we go live. All you got to do is comment on the show, and it puts you into the contest for the free sandwiches. So hopefully the Pirates win tonight, so we can give out some free food.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Bailey Falk taking them out for the Pirates, and the Yankees' new pitching acquisition, Max Fried, taking them out for the Yankees. So should be a good game.
There we go. Love it.
I'm excited though. Yep. So tune in tonight. We'll be back tonight for the post game show, and then of course NS9 Live and Sicko Sound Off this week also. So we will see you guys. Bye-bye.
See you guys. All right, that wraps up this episode of North Shore 9. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whether you're listening on the podcast or catching us on YouTube, if you enjoyed the show, please give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It really helps us grow. And if you're listening on the podcast, a quick review goes a long way in helping others find the show. Plus, be sure to tell a friend about us. There's always room for more here in the NS9 community. And for those looking to support us a little more, consider joining our Patreon, become an MVP member, and get exclusive perks while helping us continue to bring you more of the Pirates content you love. Thanks again for all your support, and let's go Bucs.